Hello, everyone. This is Henry Schneider with the Business Performance Podcast, and today it's my pleasure to speak with Sheri-Anne Wooley. And Sheri-Anne specializes in helping service-based business owners who work excessive hours in unpredictable businesses that can function without them. She's got a long career in the commercial world as operations management, and for the past, I don't know now, I guess 2 or 3 years, she's been a business mentor based on her vast experience to help other business owners grow and mature their practices. So, Sheri-Anne, welcome today.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so would you please briefly describe what your company does, Mona Cleaning, and also your business mentoring, your customers, and the types of services that you provide?
Sure. So Mona Cleaning is Mona Home and Office Cleaning. We clean homes and offices throughout the GTA in Ontario, and we provide eco-friendly, chemical-free cleaning for homes and offices. We have about 17 employees. We've been around for 10 years. Through doing my cleaning service, I started to get reached out to about being an absent owner, and I started a coaching practice. And in that business, I help service-based businesses organize their digital life, create processes and systems in their business that help their business run on its own.
Okay, great. So focusing on process, and how does the process relate to the quality of the service that you deliver?
Well, in terms of the quality, we have systems and processes in place that train our employees to deliver the same impeccable service each time. And then we have performance management around what they do and the expectation. And a lot of it is, we train our people the same way, the same message is delivered. We rate them on the same attributes, if you will. And then we do quality checks to check their work. So we have an entire system that ensures that we're delivering quality on every single clean. And then we take it a step further and we do drop-ins and have spot checks in certain locations.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that. So when you talk to your customers, what's the importance what do they see as the quality aspect of what you do?
So for our customers, they just like to have a smooth transaction with us. So they don't want to be bothered about the money. So we take credit cards from every one of our clients. They don't want to be bothered about entrance. So we either have lock pads or lock codes or keys to get into each home. And they just want to come home to a meticulously clean home. So those are the things that matter. And the other thing is if they can be invoiced in a timely fashion or receive their receipts in a timely fashion. That was a big deal when we started. So as long as we can deliver on that, we create happy customers. And once we know that they're happy, we go ahead and ask for a review. Because this is a service-based business, because we're providing a personal, I call intimate service. We're in your home. We know all your dirty secrets, like literally the dirt. So because of that, we like to make sure that we're providing a seamless, all-encompassing, thorough clean for our clients.
So what do you do when, for me, I'm always kind of concerned about people coming in and things going missing. So how do you get over that fear with your customers that you're honest and ethical, and what's out there is going to stay there and not be temptations?
Well, knock on wood, I hope we're doing something right, because we've only had 2 such incidents in the past 10 years, and one of them was proven not to be us. The other is still under investigation. But one of the things that we do is we train our employees to understand. Of course, we do background checks. Like, that is number one. We are doing criminal background checks, reference background checks, personal and business, on every employee before they can enter a home. But then we have agreements with our employees that states, not to touch things in a customer's home, our theft policy. But then we also tell the customer, we are a cleaning service. So we are there to clean your flat surfaces and your floors. So please put away your valuables so that we don't have to move them in order to clean. And that typically works well. We do have the odd client that does leave things out, but we've never, again, had any serious issues on that front. So there's an onus on both parts, both the client and the employee, and we do our part as a company to bridge that gap by educating everybody on what their responsibilities and what the expectations are.
Okay. So when you mentor people, what are one or two of the biggest myths and misconceptions out there when you talk about quality and business performance?
I think, the biggest things I tell them is, quality sells. It is, especially with service-based business, this is an intimate business. So quality matters, and that's all your customer has to go on, right? They want it done better than they could do it for themselves. So we always try to go a step above in our business. So I talk to my clients about finding that same little niche in your own business. So for example, I have a client that works with the auto industry, and he is able to pick apart a dealership and find the issues in the dealership. And I took him a step further to look for where the quality is falling apart. So this particular company thought they needed sales, when in fact they just needed to restructure things internally. And by doing quality checks, you actually see what works and what doesn't work. So the quality check is kind of trifold. You're checking the quality of the job, you're checking to see what worked and what doesn't work, and you're looking for areas for marked improvement. Where can you make an improvement that is going to affect not only your staff, but your clients most importantly? What can you do that is just a little touch extra that is going to help you meet that quality standard?
Yeah.
And that's what we look for.
Yeah, and that's important. Those lessons learned are extremely valuable. But the important thing is to be able to take that information and then internalize it and make changes, not just pay lip service to it.
Exactly. And it takes some time. If you're not trained that way, if you're not accustomed to doing it, then it's really hard to hear someone's story and actually depict where there's room for improvement. So, and again, I don't want to toot my own horn. It's something I took for granted because I didn't realize it was a skill set. But now I know.
So how do you get people over that hump after you go through and say, oh, here's what works, here's what doesn't work, here's what you can do better? How do you get them to actually take that information and do something positive with it?
So I show them what the desired outcome can be, and then I scale them back to where they are, and I show them the steps, what steps they have to take in order to reach the desired outcome. And many times it's not what people think. So the example I gave you, my client's client thought they had a revenue issue. They thought they needed more sales. But when we work with our clients, we ask them to separate things and really pull things apart. And when we took this dealership and we pulled it apart, so we looked at each part of the dealership intricately, like in great detail, we learned that they did not have a revenue problem. They had an OPEX problem, an operational expenses. So they were spending more than it cost them to perform in an hour. And as granular as that sounds, that matters. People need to know what it costs them to do business in an hour. Because if you really want to unveil problems, if you really want to see where things are going astray, if you really want to see if it's a revenue problem, you have to be able to pull things apart and know what your income is, know what your expenses are per line item that you deliver. So in this particular dealership, it was car sales. So in car sales, if you're not looking at it as its own entity and looking at what you bring in versus what you spend versus what it costs you to have staff in there, you can lose your shirt, because when you don't look at it granularly, you see, oh, we made 20,000 in sales and my payroll is 8,000 every 2 weeks. And, so I've got 4,000 left over, whatever that math is. And then they're not thinking about overhead expenses. They're not thinking about what it costs them to hold inventory and the interest that they're paying on that. So it gets really, really detailed. And
Yeah.
you have to get into those nuggets to understand quality.
So from what I understand from talking to different people in the auto industry or car dealerships, how did they contact you or get you involved, because you didn't have that background, so you had the
I know.
credibility. Yeah. So how did you get the credibility that they would actually listen to you?
So business is business, regardless of whether you're selling widgets or cars. So the concept behind business is the same across the board. And this was some basic, you go in and you understand how a business functions. How do they do transaction? And this is a gross look at a bird's eye view of the business. How do they interact with their customers? How do people buy for them? How do people find them? And as you walk through their processes, and obviously I've got some skill set here, but when you walk through their processes, you start to see where things are different than it normally is or typically is in a service-based business. And when you look at something like a dealership, even my own cleaning company, I recognize that what I have going on the commercial side has to be treated differently than on the residential side. Yes, we're one company, but the rules of engagement for commercial are different. The pricing for commercial is different. The expenses for commercial is different. So if I pulled it all in together, I wouldn't know if I was losing on my residential or my commercial. So one of the things I do is I try to dissect a business as much as I possibly can for the differences in the product that they deliver. So in a dealership, they sell cars, they have parts, they do repairs. So those are all separate entities.
Right.
If your car sales have to make up for your technician or your service base work, then you're not really ahead. You're kind of taking from Peter to feed Paul, and you're losing in that area. But if you separate them and treat them like separate entities under one giant umbrella, then you can really see what the performance is, where the quality hindrance is, where improvement is needed. Are they overstaffed? Are they understaffed? Are they spending too much? And that's really where we started. We did a complete walkthrough and observed things like inventory sitting. Well, inventory is not cheap. You have to buy it. You probably pay interest on it. And every day that it's not going out the door, every day that it's sitting in your warehouse is costing you. But most people don't think that way because it's in their possession, right?
Yeah.
So it's really trying to get into people's heads to help them understand that piece and being able to do a total walkthrough, being observant, and then pulling things apart.
So when there's several different other aspects about service delivery. So I haven't heard you really talk about this, but did you also address like capacity and availability? What is the capacity of like the services, the service advisors, and the availability of the technicians to actually deliver the services?
Absolutely. So that's another thing that we looked at, and they were A, overstaffed, B, not operating at capacity. And you really have to break this down like on an Excel spreadsheet for people to understand what it's really costing them. And we found that they were actually spending more money servicing vehicles and providing service than they were bringing in. But because they treated it like one huge umbrella, their sales in another department was covering up for what was happening in the service space. Yeah. So it is quite an art to pull it apart and lay it out so that people can understand in layman terms. And those are numbers. Numbers don't lie. I can't make them up. I can only reveal them to you. So when I can show you these numbers and show you what is really happening in your business, then you're going to be inclined to listen to me and understand that I can relate the numbers results to the actual physical activity in your business. And this is why tracking is so important, because it reveals the story of what's happening in your business. And so many people take it for granted. They just feel, I need a sale. Oh, the phone rang, I made a sale. Great, I'm done. And that's not it at all. You can sell all day, But if you are paying too much for your staffing, if your expenses are higher than what you're putting out, you'll feel that you're getting a gain, but really you're losing.
Yeah.
And that's what I really try to help unveil for my customers, especially when they come to me from a service-based business and they say they need sales. I never believe the hype. I listen, but it is 90% of the time, it is not a sales issue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all separate. When disaster strikes, it's going to be all kind of fire, floods, tornadoes, etc., can knock out the services for a period of time, stop business. And there's a certain essential set of services that cannot be interrupted. Otherwise, you'll never be able to come back up to full capacity. So do you address that type of issues?
It is absolutely something I address a little bit along in the process. Once I get some buy-in for fixing the majors, I start talking contingency plans. Because if there's a fire, a storm, or even something as simple as an outage, you need to know how to recover from it, but you need to know whether or not you can still perform in that environment. And if you can, what are the tools that you need to have available to yourself offline? Or what are the scripts that you need to have in place to speak to people that are calling in when your system is down and you can't service? So absolutely, we go over contingency plans. And in fact, we just created a new contingency plan for one of the newer companies that I'm now managing. And it's all about being able to reach out to people in the state of an emergency and be able to reach out to families in the event that any of our caregivers or staff have emergencies. And so it's important that you have a contingency plan, but it's important that your contingency plan can perform offline and can be accessed offline, and that everybody knows what it is.
Yeah.
But yes, it's absolutely something to cover.
Yeah, and the other aspect too is that a lot of times those things are just on paper. It's an academic exercise. You have to actually try it, and you find out other things you didn't think about that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
Go through some kind of like a fire drill or some kind of a simulation.
Absolutely, like a fire drill. And I'll tell you that the majority of the businesses that I deal with do not have a contingency plan because they are the contingency plan. So that's not good, because you could be out of the country and something happens to your business. You could be simply, have a dead cell phone and you're in the city and there's an emergency and you can't respond. So making sure everybody is able to know what the plan is, access the plan offline, and, absent of the owner, the business can still survive this emergency.
So when you talk to people, what are some of the advice or nuggets of wisdom that you impart to people so they can become better at what they're doing?
There's a lot of things. The number one thing is time management, because you can't become better at what you're doing without learning more, and you need to make time in order to learn. Most people just work, and they don't make time to improve in their skill set. And I always say to people, there are 3 areas that you should always be learning in if you're a business owner. One is just the art of business. Has nothing to do with the craft or the business that you're in, just business itself. So having business savvy, understanding how business flows, understanding some basic concepts around sales, marketing, administration. The next thing I tell them to have is a lot of knowledge in their skill set, whatever it is. If they're selling widgets, they better know everything there is to know about widgets. Who wants them, who doesn't want them, how they work, how they're built, what you can use them for, etc. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is self-improvement, learning about yourself, being honest with yourself, gaining clarity about where you're going, and understanding that you can't do it all. So identify your true skill sets and identify where you need help, and go out and seek the help in the areas that you are not strong, so that as a whole, you move forward as a stronger force. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's wonderful. Yeah. It also talks about just, when the areas that you're not strong, as a coach, even Michael Jordan needs a coach. He's at the top of his game.
Every coach needs a coach.
That's right. So let's kind of reflect about your life now. Would you please take a few moments and tell our listeners a little bit about your backstory and the defining moments that occurred in your life that put you where you are today?
Okay. So I'm a mom of two. I've worked in a corporate environment most of my life. I've worked for some very big names running operations. So that's where my skill set comes from. And I told you before, I took it for granted that I knew what I knew, but it is what it is. So operations is my forte. And the defining moment was when I was laid off for my corporate career for the second time. I thought to myself, it's not going to happen to me again. No one else is going to paint my destiny or my income. So I left and I started my cleaning service. And about 8 years into my cleaning service, I was able to travel and be an absent owner. The business still moved. We still got sales. We still got over issues. And I guess my friends and colleagues in other businesses were looking at what I was doing and wondering how I was doing it. So they kept reaching out to me. How do you do this? What do you do? Do you turn your business off? Do you cancel your clients? I'm like, no. I set myself up to be this way. I was not going to be that entrepreneur that is stuck in their business, and when they leave their business stops, because that's just not real. I wanted to imitate the big corporations that I came from. So I started to build the systems and processes, et cetera, in place, and that's what carries my business. So I showed them how to do this for their business. And you addressed, being from a different industry. Well, one was a fitness, she had her own gym. And the other one worked for a technology company, and another one was doing a motivational brand. She just wanted to motivate people with attire. So I was able to help them move forward and make strides. And that's when I realized that what I know is not commonplace, even for people who've been in business for as long as I have. So I formalized it and I turned it into a business. And it's actually, I'm still kind of, this is a thing, but people need it, and now they're recognizing that they're needing it. So we're doing quite well with the coaching on the coaching side, and I'm so happy to be able to help people with something that is just, second nature for me. So it's been interesting.
Oh, wonderful. So also now, just again reflecting, I'm thinking that can you share an experience you had early on that still affects how you approach business today?
Probably the way I was raised. My grandmother had her own business. My mom started her own business, worked from home while she was working a full-time job. And I think that we were just raised in an environment of, working hard, playing hard, and staying focused. And I think that's just always been with me through school and now in my own business. One of the major things that we learned from our parents, we never ever saw our parents stay home from work sick. So I always push myself, and my dad has this thing that he says, if you're sick and you're down and you stay down, you'll be down. But if you get up and move around, you'll be up. So that's kind of the mentality that I work with every day. I don't get sick often, but I love what I do so much that I'm always here.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful advice. Very, very positive message there. Okay, so let's talk about what does success look like for Sheri-Anne?
Success. Success looks like when I can get through my day according to what my calendar has dictated for me to do. So a successful day for me is when I'm up between 5:30 and 6. I have meditated, I've prayed, I've exercised, I've had my cold shower, I had a really good breakfast, and I can be at work between 7 and 7:30. That's a good day for me. If I come out any later than that, if I'm at work at 9 o'clock or later, that's not a great day for me. Very hard for me to kick into gear later than that. And probably the biggest thing I attribute to my success is the ability to understand not only my mind, but my body. And I know it sounds kind of woo-woo and it's all of the latest thing, but I can tell you that it's been life-changing for me. I took up meditation about a year and a half ago. I've lost weight. I look younger. I feel great. I don't get upset so easy. Something disastrous can happen and I can step back and decide what the right emotion to apply to it is. I can separate life events from Sheri-Anne the being and understand that events don't define me. And those are major things. I mean, they might sound minor, but they're actually very major. And I attribute all of that to be able to stay productive, stay focused, and move ahead. So it's been big for me.
Okay, great. So you got the start of the day. So when do you stop at the end of the day? Because as an entrepreneur and business and coach, your day really never ends.
Yeah, well, you're going to be embarrassed, or I'm going to be embarrassed when I tell you. I usually stop work anywhere between 2 and 5, just depends on the day. But there's some days where I stop at 2 and at 4 o'clock, I'll pick it up again until 8. I do what feels comfortable for me on the day. But as a general rule, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock is usually my fun time. So less stress on my brain. I do fun things. I be creative with just in thought. I usually get out of my office and start bugging my staff at around that time of day. So that time lives on my calendar, and I kind of have it for a few different things. So I have a few choices. My calendar does have me living a regimented life, and that's why I do it. So I either work right through that time and finish at 4 or 5 o'clock and I'm done, or I, take the time off and then I get back onto my computer for a little bit. I try very hard not to be a workaholic, but I love what I do, so I don't see it as work. So right now I'm going through this mental battle with myself. Stop working, start working. It's not work, don't work. So yeah, it's just an internal argument that goes on that I have to sort out.
Yeah, I know it's hard when you really love doing something. It's hard to stop and do something else.
And you don't see it as work.
Yeah, that's true. So let's talk about some recent successes that you've had. Can you tell our listeners something that's happened to you recently that's been very successful?
Okay. So in March, I was on Arlene Dickinson's show under new management. Last year, CBC had reached out to me to participate in the show. And the premise of the show is Arlene takes out entrepreneurs, young budding entrepreneurs who want to purchase a business. She shows you 3 and you either purchase or you don't. One of the businesses that she showed my sister and I was in line with our ultimate dream to have a senior center. And so we bought a seniors franchise where we help seniors stay at home or age in place, if you will. So we provide caregivers and PSWs into the home to help take care of seniors and bring them back to as much as we possibly can, to their daily normal activity, daily activities. So that was something interesting that happened to me. Quite the experience to work with Arlene Dickinson, and a whole other experience learning about franchises and starting something again 10 years later from scratch. So, and it's not really from scratch because it is a franchise, but it is starting from $0. So that was interesting.
So with a franchise, how much freedom do you have to institute your process, mindset, and quality and all that you use at Mona Cleaning and what you communicate to your clients?
So process, mindset, all of those goodies, I do have the ability. The franchisor does not give you processes and procedures. They give you templates and a little bit of know-how, but the true value of a business is when a business is completely systematized. That means, Henry, I can give you the instruction manual and you can run the business. So that was a major difference for me, is not having, I had the expectation that the franchise would give me that, and I didn't get that. So creating that from day one, hard, not hard, but not a favorable activity that I expected to do. We can through that, then, train our staff, and then give them a little bit of, what we like to talk about, a little bit of mindset, a little bit of motivation. We put incentives in place right away, something our head office does not have. But we believe that if you can treat your employees like gold, if you can give them all the tools they need to be successful, and then throw in a little incentive, a little positive praise, then they will perform for you. They will be there for you. And I'm happy and proud to say that out of 5 locations, we're probably the only one that has never had a no-show or someone call out last minute. And I strongly believe it's because we treat our employees like gold. They understand that we are nothing without them. And I treat every single employee like they are my own employee. And I do the same with my clients. So that kind of thing is really important. And I think that's where we have liberation with how we treat our staff and how we run our franchise different than any other franchise or even the master franchisor.
Yeah, and so what you're seeing here is a difference in the maturity of the capabilities. It sounds like what you've done is with Mona and all, you've really matured your capability. And when you took on the franchise, they were at an entirely different level. You're trying to bring them up to the same level, and now you're above the rest of the franchises. And so they could take.
I hope I'm above. But yes, I absolutely took everything that I know from my current life and I applied it there. I learned a few things along the way. I understand how you motivate employees, how you keep employees happy, how employee selection, employee demographic matters. We talk about avatars and your client demographic and finding the ideal client and figuring out who they are and selling to one person and then others like them will come. The exact same concept is true for employees. You need to understand who they are, what motivates them, what attracted them to you in the first place, so that you can replicate it and get more of that person. And we set out to do that right from the start.
And I always maintain that no matter what, everybody wants to do the best job they can. And if you don't give them that infrastructure and guidance, they'll make it up and they'll go off and get demoralized, demotivated, and you get very unhappy people, and those are the ones that don't show up.
You're absolutely right there. Employees want to know how they're doing. If you don't talk to them, if you don't tell them about their performance, if you don't provide them with feedback, they feel like they're working never land. So they're never going to hear any feedback. They're never going to know how they're doing. Some of them get paranoid and live on pins and needles because of that. Some of them, that's just not how they want to work, and they'll leave. But it's very hard for an employee to articulate that because that type of treatment is so mainstream and common in a corporate environment. You know exactly how you're doing, where you're going, where you've come from. You've got feedback in real time. And again, I try to replicate that in my business because there has to be something that attracts people, retains them, and keeps them happy. So I really delve into demographic for my employees and make sure that that stuff is happening.
Okay, great. So you've got competition, basically. So let's just talk about Mona Cleaning. So you're not the only one that's doing something like that. So what's the most important thing that customers should consider when they come to you for cleaning services?
Versus my competitors, you mean?
Yeah.
Or just
when they're going to evaluate you against the competition, what should they be looking for?
Our timeliness, our reliability, our ability to be consistent. The same kind of clean by the same cleaning rep every time. If you're weekly, bi-weekly, daily, whatever you are, we will always arrive a little bit early. We will always be there. And if we cannot be there, and again, like I said, we rarely get last minute cancellations on our end, but if we cannot be there, we communicate with them right away and let them know that, someone else will be in for the clean. We give them the option if they want that cleaner. And these are things that we go over in our sales call. So once we know that you're going to be our client, we start laying out the lay of the land. We also send them, kind of the rules of engagement. So it's very clear how we expect you to perform and how you can expect us to perform as well. So I think those things are very different. we did a market study, like a secret shopper when we first started. And one of the things that cleaning clients wanted, and we went to a few different companies, they really wanted to be invoiced.
Wow.
And as minor as it may sound, we threw that in as part of our practice. So we tell you we're coming to your home in 2 days. We tell you we're going to charge your card this much in 2 days. And on the day of, we charge your card. And people love that. Like, that is a big deal. Our system went down and we didn't send out reminders for a month. That was our number one complaint almost daily, because people like it. And like I said to you before, it's seamless to do business with us. We are carrying you through the process. We're going to tell you we're coming. We're going to charge you without you knowing. You're aware, but we're going to charge you so you don't have to dig your card out. We're going to enter without you knowing or feeling a glitch. We're going to clean and we're going to leave. So now you're living La Vida Loca. You come in, you come home, your house is clean, you've been charged, you got your invoice. It is smooth, very smooth. And the only time you're going to hear from us is if we have to change something, which is very rare, stat holidays, that type of thing. But the time you're going to hear from us is we want to hear your feedback. How are we doing? Will you write us a review? And that's it.
Very good. So we talked a lot about lessons learned. So let's talk about lessons learned for you. If you had to start all over again now from scratch, what would you do differently? What would you keep and continue on with?
What would I do differently? I think I might have become a marketing expert right off the bat. Marketing is a lot in business. I think that, the approach I took with building systems and wanting to automate, I would absolutely repeat that. But then I would put more effort into marketing my business and not so much working in my business on the administrative stuff that, yes, matters, but it doesn't matter as much as being able to market every single day, get your marketing right, and attract people. Yeah. So if I had to start over again, that's where I'd start.
Okay, wonderful. So we can just keep going on and on and on, but we're running out of time here. So how can people contact you for more information, Sheri?
Okay, so for my cleaning service, they can reach out to monacleaning.com. That's MONA cleaning.com. For my coaching services, they can reach me directly at Sheri-Anne, it's a long one, Sheri-Anne at nobsbreakthrough.com. It was the name of my old program. So it's SHERIANNE at nobsbreakthrough.com. My website there is mentorwithsheri.com, MENTOR with SHERI. And for our new senior business, where we help keep people in place, they can call us directly at 905-294-3155.
Wonderful. So you're a fantastic storyteller, Sheri, and I really appreciate what you've been relating to everybody, and I like the focus you have on time management and people. That's just wonderful. So I'm sure everybody is going to find it just as fascinating. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.